If you're a children's book author and you are planning to produce and publish your very first book as an indie author, and you're in the process of looking for an illustrator and hiring an illustrator for your book, there's one huge mistake you need to avoid right now before you hire them. And that mistake is looking at your relationship with your illustrator as purely transactional. Let's talk about it. If you watched my last video, which has been a couple of weeks now, you know that I recently had a heart attack. And so I just want to give a quick update on that before I get into the content of this video. It was a small heart attack, and I'm doing well. I've also been diagnosed now with hypothyroidism, which basically means that I have an autoimmune disease that gives me low metabolism, and it's pretty rare with men, actually. And so I'm trying to navigate all this. My diet has changed quite a bit. I am currently on sick leave, so I'm not working too much throughout the week, but I'm also doing some high intensity training and interval workouts and things like that as part of my rehab work. And so I'm staying pretty busy with things, but overall, I'm doing well. I'm feeling great. A little exhausted in the afternoons, but other than that, I'm doing well. But let's get into the content of today's video, and that is, like I said, the big mistake that you can make as an author, looking at your relationship as with your illustrator as purely transactional. And what do I mean by that? I mean that you sign a contract, you go through the project, they create the product for you, they pass along the files to you. That's the end of the contract, and that's the end of your relationship. That, my friend, is a huge mistake. And I want to give you two different reasons why you should cultivate that relationship and turn it into more of a long-term relationship rather than just ending it with the contract. And then I'm also going to talk about 5 ways that you can continue to nurture that relationship for the long term. Now, the very first reason you should look at this as a long-term relationship is for the visual consistency that it provides. Let's just assume that this is not the first book that you're going to create. In fact, I would really encourage you, try to look for ways to turn it into a collection of books or a whole series of books. Even if your books are not part of a series, it might be nice to have the same illustrator illustrate all your books. That could provide a lot of value. But the reason why you may want that visual consistency, especially with a series or a collection of books, is that you kind of form this relationship where you know what each other's strengths and skill sets are, and your illustrator begins to take on the same vision as you have for the series. And so then it's much easier for them to create the artwork that really benefits your series as a whole, and for each book as well. So yeah, there's creative synergy. There's it strengthens your brand identity to have the same illustrator throughout. I'll be honest, I don't use the same illustrator for all my books, but in a series, I try to use the same illustrator, and I really encourage you to do the same. Now, the second reason why I would encourage you to sort of maintain this long-term relationship is that it gives you expanded reach through shared promotion. So in other words, not only are you trying to sell the books, but if you have a relationship with your illustrator and you invite them into the process, then it becomes both of you as a team promoting and marketing and selling the book, whether it's in person at events or even just on social media, online presence, that sort of thing. You know, there's this word synergy that I mentioned a few minutes ago, And I really love that word. And if you don't really know what that means, it's basically you can carry more, you can do more together as a team than you can separately. That's the point I'm trying to make. So, those are the two main reasons why I think you should build this relationship. And so, now let's jump into 5 different ways that you can cultivate this relationship with your illustrator. Number one is that you should have clear and respectful communication right from the start. Be very clear about your intentions and your desires for your book or your series. Be very clear about what you're looking for, and be respectful at the same time. This is not just a transaction. You're not just walking into the store and buying something. You're not just buying the artwork from the illustrator. You want to build this relationship. So be respectful and be polite with your communication with them. If even through email or text messages or whatever the case may be, you want to be respectful. You want to show that you respect their time. Maybe consider, not sending that text message or that email during the weekend when they are likely with their family. Um, be respectful of their time. Be respectful of their skill set. Don't trash their work just because you don't like it or think it doesn't really meet your expectations. Give some constructive feedback that they can use. And be very, like I said, very clear about what you're looking for from the very beginning, and stay in touch through the process. Maybe you have a set time throughout the weeks and months that you'll be working actively on this project, where you say, we're going to meet regularly to discuss where we are in the project. That can be over Zoom, or it can be, just a phone call, or even just an email, just to catch up, just to update each other where things are. So I think, your communication will really help build that relationship. Number two, for how you can cultivate your relationship with your illustrator, is to trust their artistic expertise. Um, I, there are a lot of people who think when you give the artist your art notes or whatever, you should supply templates that have the text already in place. Um, and I just really don't like that, because I think that constrains their creative freedom in a way. Like, yes, there needs to be space for the text, but that text could really be in many different places on the spread or on the page. And I would rather give the illustrator creative freedom to use that whole canvas to create the scene for you. And then, uh, with the text in mind, they need to kind of think about where the text should be in their illustration, not how they should illustrate around the text, if that makes sense. So, give give the artistic freedom to your illustrator to do sort of what they picture. I like to not give very detailed art notes to my illustrators. I prefer to, maybe give a few guidelines, maybe give little hints to, yeah, I'd like to see this, or, I'd like for the character to be doing this. But I don't like to give a whole lot of detail. I want them to express themselves in the artwork. Number three, acknowledge and celebrate their work. I think this is perfect for not only your own project, but the other projects that they work on, and extend it way beyond your active project. Think about ways that you can celebrate their work. If they're sharing an illustration that they're proud of on social media, comment on it, like it, and then share it yourself and say, tell your own audience, hey, this is what my illustrator just did. I really love their work, and I think they are so creative and talented with what they do. That is such a fantastic way to not only share your illustrator's talents, but to encourage them as well. They will feel really encouraged if you're also sharing their work and they're not just doing that alone. Um, yeah, but you could also be sharing the artwork from your own book, and be sure to, don't make the mistake of sharing that artwork and not tagging them, or giving credit to them. Make sure that your audience knows, like, this illustration was done by so and so, and I'm just so proud of what they did for my book. Um, yeah, so acknowledge their creativity, their talents, and also celebrate them. Celebrate the work that they have done, not only on your book, but what they continue to do for other authors as well. And even maybe just the illustrations they do for fun or they do for their own purposes. Share those, because we should be wanting to help them and promote them as well. I made the mistake early on of not really wanting to tell too many people about my illustrator, because I felt like I wanted to keep her all to myself. And I'm seeing now that that was the wrong way to think about it. We need to be championing our partners in our books, and our illustrators are our partners. I truly believe that even though you may have written the book, your illustrator has a huge part in creating this final project, and we need to honor them in that. Collaborate on marketing. That's number 4. Think about ways that you can promote the book together. And I've seen some amazing relationships between authors and illustrators, especially those who live close by together, and they can hold events together, or maybe they can do book signings together, visit schools together, stuff like that. It's really a fantastic thing to see. Obviously, we can't all do that, but we can still collaborate. We can do uh, special uh, events where you offer ebooks for free together, like maybe all the books that they've worked on, or what have you. There's different ways that you can do that. Um, you can include them in your launch team, and in your launch event and strategy. You can just there's so many different ways that you can engage with each other online. You could have live um, interviews with them, live conversations with them, and invite both your audience and their audience to watch and be engaged in that. Just think about different ways that you can collaborate and work together. It's such a beautiful thing to see when authors and illustrators are able to do that. And finally, number 5 is offer constructive feedback. Um, I talked a little bit about this earlier, but just be very clear and supportive, while giving a little bit of room for their own expression in the art. You don't want to give so much room that you don't feel like you can give any constructive criticism. Remember, this is your book, and you are sort of the boss of the situation, you might say. So you don't want to not speak into what you desire to see, but you also want to give them a little bit of freedom as well. So there has to be some give and take, but don't be afraid to offer constructive feedback. If there's something in the artwork that, yeah, it just really doesn't sit right with you, or maybe you need to change it, speak up, let them know. Do it, like I said, respectfully and politely. Um, and maybe it's like you don't even know what the solution is, but there's something that's not sitting right, and so you just need to kind of talk it out together and maybe find a solution together. So those are my 5 reasons why I believe you should nurture your relationship with your illustrator. And this is all based on the book that I am about to release called The Indie Author's Dozen, which is all about helping you establish your own self publishing team to help you produce and publish your next children's book. So be on the lookout for that very soon. And I can't wait to get it into your hands. Thanks so much.